Alright, guys, so let's go for the rest of the topics for security, and it will be the last session then. Uh, so we have certain smaller topics remaining. So we were talking about SQL Server last time and its security. So we talked about Azure SQL, how to create, although we created multiple times Azure SQL Server. And we talked about its security. So network security is there for SQL Server, then access control, who can access, who cannot. Network security pretty much is also the same thing, that, but with slightly different rules. Then there is threat protection and information protection. That in information protection, the data is encrypted, while in threat protection, unauthorized access and suspicious activities are by default with automated tools detected and remediated, or some solution is created, like the threat is detected, it will actually block some of the accesses there, or block the whole SQL Server access right away. So then, excuse me, we created Azure, we connected to a SQL Server, and then we connected to Azure SQL Server last time. And excuse me. So there was related, advanced security related stuff. Mainly, what the concept was before that, app server, or the when the somebody connects, or some application connects to the SQL Server in Azure from Azure. This is also in Azure. This is also in Azure, and it goes through the internet to the Azure SQL Server. So that was a security threat, that you have to go to the wild west of internet to access secure. Then we did a lab uh, for private link last time, where the app actually uses Microsoft's backbone network to connect to SQL Server without touching internet through ISPs and telecoms. It has its own backbone network through which we can connect with private IP. So that was the main security that can be implemented. Obviously, when you go over the internet to the other resource, hackers are on the look for that. We talked about that, and allow traffic only from specific subnet is one way. Suppose now hackers are connecting from the other IP address, so you just allow that particular IP address from which the app is connecting, then it will be secured as well. But avoiding internet at all cost would be the better solution. Then we talked about Azure Reader SQL Server. Yeah, so this is also uh, I showed last time. You can just add an IP address of a user to connect to SQL Server. There's SQL access control, authentication, and authorization. So SQL authentication, we already have tried to give, okay, whoever wants to have SQL Server authentication or Azure authentication, we just simply add the users there. So all available in the last lab. Also, authorization, database rules, rule level security. Now, we were supposed to talk about data masking, which is let's connect to Azure admin, blah blah blah. So this was I showed before, but I also put screenshots there now. So Active Directory admin, when you are connecting, or when you have added yourself in SQL Server, and obviously this user only will have uh, access to anything, and especially when you're trying to. This is a SQL Server with some sample databases here, so you can just add user and give access to only that user to that database or to that SQL Server. Again, this is SQL authentication or Active Directory authentication. This is activity authentication. We disconnect and connect again SQL Server with Azure Active Directory Authentication. So we did that lab as well last time, and you can refer to this lab there, the previous class video. And then there was, let's add an Azure user with reader permissions only. So um, that also we did because, okay, this is the step by step when you put a query inside SQL Server. And once you put the create user, if this is Zoom series. So here we have a create user, and you have to just give a query. And for query, you just click the new query button here. After you click the master database, then you click new query button here, and then you can type or this create user and your username from which you're logged in right now from external provider. When you type this command, it will then and then click the execute button here. It will say here commands completed successfully. Completion time was that. So external user, you want to give access. So this is the way you can give access as well. Other than that, user created in the security section of the master database. These step-by-step slides. And then you can go for system database, expand the master, expand the security, and expand the users as well. And then you will see that same user that you wanted to create with an external user to give access to SQL databases. So it's pretty much the work of DBAs, actually, database administrators, but as Azure administrator, we must know some of the database working, deployment, management, and working as well. So my suggestion is that to go for some basic course of databases, how to deploy databases. Although some of the basics we touched already, how to deploy databases we have already done. How to connect to a database we have already done. How to create a table we have already gone through that too. And high availability options of Azure and security options of Azure. We have discussed many of them. These step-by-step slides just tell that how to create user and how to change the role of a user. So you can follow that when you create a database. Again, how to create a database is covered in last lab as well. There are all those slides that tell what to do step by step. If we go back here, Azure SQL data protection, encrypt data at rest, encrypt data in transit, dynamic data masking. Encrypt data at rest. That is obviously by default the data is encrypted in Azure itself, but in SQL Server we can also encrypt all the data that is at rest. And what is the data at rest? This is all the tables that I was showing here. Uh, suppose so these are the tables here, and these tables where there is a lot of information, columns and rows and rows and rows, thousands of rows here with big databases. So how do you really want to make sure that this data is encrypted as well, and no one's accessing that data? So that is what is mentioned here. Yeah, so we already did that. Refer to last slide. So it just says that it just mentions here encrypt data at rest, encrypt data in transit, dynamic data masking, encrypt Azure SQL data at rest. So transparent data encryption enabled by default. So yes, just like in Azure, all the data is encrypted by default. The data in SQL Server, so enabled by default using key protected by server certificate. So SQL Server data is also the databases is encrypted or use customer managed key. We talked about key vault. We saw how to create a key vault in earlier labs. Always encrypted, encryption in use. So data encrypted within SQL Server. So data is already encrypted in SQL Server. Client accesses key to decrypt, and once you decrypt, then you can see the data and access the data and use it. Key in Windows Certificate Store or Azure Key Vault. So the key that encrypts the data inside SQL Server in the database tables and rows and columns is that key is saved in the Azure Key Vault. So what we get from here is that SQL Server data at rest is by default encrypted, right? So we don't have to really worry about, hey, is our data encrypted or not? It is encrypted. If we go ahead, encrypt SQL data at rest, yep. So it is by default encrypted. And user connects via browser to an app, the connection is encrypted with TLS, so transport layer security. That encrypts the data which is moving. App connect to SQL in the backend, and that connection is also encrypted. The trust server certificate equals false will force the confirmation of server certificate as you are not automatically trusting the server certificate. So the thing is, it says that when the user is connecting to application to access data, application connects to the data over TLS encryption and then accesses data. So user is retrieving some kind of data through an application. Obviously, the data is actually living here. Right? So the application retrieves that data for the user. In order to do that, the application has to make a connection to the SQL Server. Microsoft says that Azure SQL Server connection is encrypted. The data that is moving is also encrypted with TLS. So users connection to app server and app server's connection to SQL Server is also encrypted. And SQL dynamic data masking. So what that does is, as I mentioned, so this is 61, right? So there was one screenshot where I was showing tables. So this is how data looks like. Right? This is how tables and rows looks like. So columns, column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5, and row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, right? So column and rows in a table, and in SQL Server, thousands of such tables are there. And this is how it looks like. You can read everything, right? So progressive reports, Harris, Keith, Mr. Keith, and customer ID is this. So you can read everything, and salesperson is adventure works. So everything hits here. But what about you want to mask some of the data? Mask means those who are not authorized, even if they are able to open the table, they won't be able to see, suppose, row 2, or they won't be able to see, suppose, this column 4 and column 6. They should not be able to see column 7 or 8. So you can even put masking, or you can hide data in rows only, that, okay, this row, this row, this row, this row should be hidden, and any other row is okay. So that you can do as and well. Now, Azure, okay, yeah, that's what we did last. SQL dynamic data masking limits non-privileged users from connecting to SQL data by masking the data. So, and there, how it works is that you just simply enable data masking. So data masking really looks like this. Now, since I have the screenshots here as well, and that's a few things that I wanted to show here as well. Dynamic data masking is here option, and then you just have to select which row. So if I go slightly here, so which row you want to mask from the users. So add mask to email address or add mask to the column. And in the column, you want to add mask to email address, email, customer, or schema. So you would either mask or hide the column, anything in the column. You might want to hide anything in the row. Right? So it's column that it is masking right now or hiding, and then press OK. So it's pretty straightforward. You click the data masking. I don't want anyone to see those the passwords that are mentioned in the column, or the address line or username that is so and but only authorized people can see that. Authorized people cannot see. So when you click the add mask, then you go for overview, and then you are so once you mask that, then you can connect to the client. Remember that we had a client in our laptop in last lab, and through that client we were remotely connecting to our SQL server. So you can connect to the client, and then you try to see through the table. So when first you connect to the client, then you expand the databases, then you expand the DP01, you expand the tables, and then there is one table for the customer. These tables are all provided by Microsoft as sample tables. Right? AdventureWorks is one sample company, or Microsoft pretend company, and its data is there for you to play with if you want a lot of data to check the SQL Server features. So those are the tables that Microsoft provides with some sample data. So when you right click a table and then select top 100,000 rows, so it then tries to show all the data here. And if we go ahead to connect Object Explorer again, which just means that you want to connect the data again. Then you go to the second SQL Server here. And now how does masking looks like? Masking looks like this, that yes, suppose you are the unauthorized person. So you will be able to see some of the columns, but email address, remember that we click the mask button there. So when you mask, it looks like this. It's simply just, so you click the add a mask. Obviously, you're the administrator. You will be able to see the data, but when you log in from another user, you won't be able to, that user will not be able to see masked column. Right? So that's how masking looks like, and it's manual process obviously, and you may have some DBAs that are connecting their, not database administrators, but some users who are connecting their programmers, developers connecting their so you don't want them to see some of the columns there, so you can actually hide on the column level as well. And that is just a feature where you just click the add mask. Other than that, data discovery and classification. So Azure SQL Advanced Data Security, that is data discovery and classification. So you discover what data is critical and then classify it as important or critical. Vulnerability assessment, pretty big. Vulnerability assessment is a project we are doing right now in our company, and there are many vulnerabilities through which hackers can attack. Hackers can utilize, exploit those vulnerabilities and attack your network. So there's a lot of tools there in Azure Vulnerability Management. If I go and log in there to and Azure, so vulnerability management actually is in security, and that comes through Microsoft 365 services, in fact, and that Microsoft 365 4-in-1 course is starting the week after next week. And today is the last session of this security course as well. So I'll be covering some of the topics, the remaining topics here. Security. So if you go to security and oh, okay, here. So if you go to well, it's supposed to show here weaknesses area, and then cloud discovery is there. So you discover and identify. But this means this defender does not really show a secure score. Secure score shows the if I go for view history, and yeah, this is secure score. That does show a lot of vulnerabilities that are there, block untrusted and unsigned processes that run from USB, ensure so block all USB. Pretty much, it's saying block a dog reader from creating child processes. So it gives you a lot of stuff that you can implement, but some it's not necessary that everything. Suppose a company says, no, we want the USB to work, so do not block university. So if there is a company policy, so you don't want to go against the company compliance policy, and you don't want to block that. But overall, it just gives you recommendations that you should block this, you should block that. Oh, this is open, that is open. So this is all vulnerability, and then you will be attacked, and that will be disastrous for the company. So that's why there's a lot of tools Microsoft provides for vulnerability assessment, and then it tells you that what is your score in that remediation or removal of vulnerabilities, and how secure you are in terms of secure score. So I'm in this environment is 46% secure. This means that like we can say 54% of that 54% score still is needed to secure 100% securing the whole environment, right? And it gives you recommendations that if you implement that, we will score you better. But some of the recommendations you don't really need to implement if the company doesn't want you to do that. But still, the recommendations are here in the security.microsoft.com. In the interview, you can also mention that, okay, these are the tools for security.microsoft.com. So, advanced threat protection is also their ATP, normally threat intelligence. So, these areas, vulnerability assessment, advanced threat protection, these are all in security.microsoft.com. And there you can start hunting just means that you can try to pretend that you're connecting from outside as a hacker, and then the tool tries to look from outside to your environment, any kind of entry points, and will then show you that, or in a report that, hey, from outside, we can connect or we can hack you from these vulnerabilities and points. So you can try to check them out. So threat intelligence, also threat analytics just keeps on telling. These are automated tools. So Microsoft just keeps on telling you that if there was an attack, was it repelled? And actor profiles, short DM, Black Lotus Bootkit bypasses UEFI protections. So there were attack campaigns going on by some, and were you really, you know, secured or not? Okay, so Fuzzy also shows that the secure score for her. So by default, this means that we haven't really configured. We don't have much data there. So by default, some of the things Microsoft is considering as secure. So Fuzzy is showing that it's 44% here. Data isn't available now because we don't have much data here. By default, when you start, it's because there's no data, so you're already secure. Otherwise, when there is data, then there's lots and lots of recommendations here. Plus, you have to have Microsoft Defender monthly subscription to show you. Yeah. So if you click the home button here, and then you go next, next, next. So, but before even that, if you have enabled that Defender, now see this unlock end-to-end visibility with Azure Sentinel, your cloud native SIEM. This enable button here. So some of the things are required to be enabled first in order to um, have some kind of automated tools that start giving you report about your data. Threat intelligence and many other options in the left page. So Fuzzy says, I don't have threat intelligence option and many other options in the left page. So Fuzzy, so this Microsoft Defender subscription for this is needed for that, and you have to enable that subscription of Microsoft Defender. Now, I think you might find somewhere here to enable, to click the enable button, and then it will start a 1 month trial version, right? So I'm not sure if 1 month has passed for me, but it's a trial version, then they start charging. There you go, trials here. So Learning Hub, under the Learning Hub, there's a trials. And then they're saying that what do you want to do? Teams premium compliance assessments, compliance trials. Okay, no, that's well, I have already enabled my Microsoft Defender, so that's why it's showing me a lot of stuff here. But you have to enable that Microsoft Defender. I hope it's showing in the trial or it's showing in the home button here. There was another area where it was supposed to show, I guess. So but you have to enable 1 month subscription, then it shows. That's the main thing. If I just check your screenshot here, so the trials are not there as well. This means it's not enabled, right? So there's settings here. Maybe in the settings it shows that you have to enable 1 month trial. After that, it shows automated configurations there. You have to do a bit of search there. For today's class, do we have to enable that as well? Well, either you can see from here what I'm doing, and yes, if you want to do it yourself, but it's just for today. Um, uh, yeah, if you want to practice, yes, enable. If you want to see at least here and not enable, and then forget to disable the trial version, then so there's always that risk of the trial version converting to paid version. Today at the end of the class, just remind me also that we need to disable all these subscriptions. I hope I remember as well to disable all the subscriptions that we did. But if because it's just for today, so maybe you can just see mine because I've already enabled that. I'll be going through these and showing what is what. But otherwise, yes, if you want to practice later, so yes, you will have to enable for 1 month. So the choice is yours. Now, if I go ahead there, so automated data discovery and classification, data labeled with security classifications. Now, If you have data, if you have created a SQL server and you have a lot of data inside SQL servers, then you are then automated data discovery and classification tools of Microsoft. So Microsoft in the background automatically starts discovering data and starts classifying data as critical. How it will know that it is critical? If it's a credit card number, it's a password. I mean, there are known sensitive information that everyone knows, obviously, that, oh, this is sensitive information. So, what is sensitive information? Like banking information that, or insurance company number, client information, client numbers, especially. So, it will automatically discover data and classify and give you a report that this much data has been classified as important, and maybe you want to do data masking on that. Maybe you want to go through other security measures that we discussed in this slide in previous class as well. That is all there. So it shows like this. If you have Defender, um, Microsoft Defender vulnerability, first of all, the paid version of Defender will tell you. It will just simply activate a lot of tools that will start automatically checking that what kind of your data is at high risk and how to remediate or resolve that issue. And what are critical vulnerabilities and high risks and medium risk and low risk. So this is very good guidance for you to then follow up and simply uh, implement some security measures there. So that's really important. And there is protection example alerts, SQL injection attacks. So there are types of attacks there: access from unusual location, a brute force SQL credential attack, and then access from unusual user identity. So it tries to detect that whoever is connecting through from a unique location, from a location that none of the employees ever connected. Suppose everyone's connecting from Canada, and then all of a sudden there's a connection from England, uh, London, England. So Microsoft Azure protection will detect that, hey, no one ever connected from London, England, so it will raise an alert for that. This is an unusual location. So that is automatic, and that is so cool feature. And security is very good with Microsoft. That's why companies are going to cloud and Azure, especially brute force SQL credential attack. And then this means that your credentials, somebody will try to guess, some application will try to guess your credentials, and it will try to check all the possibilities and try to enter. And then SQL injection, that is to look for vulnerabilities inside and then exploit the vulnerability to then gain unauthorized access, and then access from unusual user identity. So some new user tried to connect. Obviously, that would be a big alert. And ensure SQL Advanced Data Security is turned on. Enter email address to receive alerts. Do vulnerability assessment for AdventureWorks database or whichever database you have. You should keep on viewing vulnerability assessment. So Secure Score also should be telling you if you have Defender paid subscription, then yes, it will tell you the what needs to be blocked, what needs to be protected. Configure SQL auditing and logging, view data discovery and classification for AdventureWorks. So you need to keep an eye on the reports, the security reports that are being created by security tools from the paid subscription of Microsoft Defender. So if you keep an eye on those, obviously you will know firsthand that what needs to be done to protect those vulnerabilities, and to cover those vulnerabilities. If you keep an open eye on your security reports, so that's what it's saying. Make sure advanced data security is on, and that is and as this. So when you have installed SQL Server, then you just simply go down here. Many of the tools are just one click or two click, and they are activated, and then you just save them, and they are connected. So advanced data security, there's advanced data security and on and save. That's all. And, from your side, you need to turn on. You need to know what tools are there, what do they do, and then how to which ones to turn on right away. So that's what you need to know. And then, yeah, advanced data security. I'm just showing all the diagrams for all the easier steps there. That when there's a database there, just simply click there, advanced data security there. And then you will get reports like this. Obviously, you still have to have paid subscription of Defender as well. And then if it's high risk failure, obviously you have to attend to it right away, right? So, yep, there you go. So vulnerability assessments here with paid subscription, it will tell you pretty much everything. And as soon as you fill up all the loopholes, your report will go green or low risk at least. Okay, so there's a scan button here as well that you can use. So you can use this when you're working on SQL Server. Then you can use this slide to check for different sections there, and click the scan button, and it will scan and give you a new report of any vulnerabilities checked. Then you can enable auditing as well. And now so there's log analytics and auditing. So you can enable auditing. It's again you have to click the on button, and then log analytics is, excuse me, so log analytics is also a paid service, where obviously when there is any activity in the SQL Server, log files are created. Log files are what? That they put the event with a timestamp. Log files, right? And those log files, you want to exchange those log file data into a fancy graph, so you can understand really what's going on. You want to have a better picture to some graphs there, so it will show you that, and it will give you some advanced reports as well from different perspectives. So log analytics, when you turn on auditing, you have to configure log analytics. This creates a storage account. You have to pay for that, because log files will get created 1 MB, 1 MB, 1 MB, 1 MB. Suppose it's a big database, so maybe daily 2 GB log files are getting created. So you will be charged for the size of the storage account connected to this log analytics details, right? You want to have auditing on critical databases, then obviously the charges on the storage are minutes or nothing for the big companies, right? And yeah, then you have to create a new workspace if you want to go for log analytics, and then it asks to create a resource group, and then there's a pay as you go as well. And yeah, once it is configured, then and in the background there's a storage account created where your log files will be saved. Um, so, yep. Well, pretty much you have to enable some of the services there to get security reports, data discovery and classification. We have found 15 columns with classification recommendations. So it goes through your data. It checks that if there is something that needs to be classified as critical or important or sensitive, and it gives you a report. Suppose you have a column with credit card numbers. Suppose you have a column with banking information. So it already knows, obviously, everyone knows that this is sensitive information, financial information, right? Any kind of other numbers like patient, doctor, case numbers, anything like that, right? So it will then consider that as classified data. So it's all automated. The good thing about Microsoft security and also Azure security is that It's all automated tools that are giving you reports. You just need to keep an eye on what's going on. If you don't keep an eye on the reports, yes, you're going to be in big trouble. So you need to enable, first of all, automated tools. You have to go for paid subscriptions to enable automated tools, and then you have to um, keep an eye on that those reports, and then remediate whatever recommendations are coming from the report, and follow those steps, and fill up the loopholes, and remove all the vulnerabilities from there. That's how it works. Now, data discovery and classification. So it shows that, okay, I've discovered these tables here, and you can just click the save button, because then you can classify as well. See, you can see here that it shows that what data is can be classified as confidential. You can actually edit all those. That financial information is all confidential. Credit card information is confidential. Financial account number is financial considered. So it classifies. Report classifies that, okay, tax amount, and it's a financial information, so it should be considered as sensitivity label is confidential. So credit card approval code, which is related to credit card, so it is confidential. Account number, financial, or confidential, and then all these types are columns are contact info, and hence considered confidential as well. So once sensitivity level is there confidential, then you can put some policies there that whatever is considered classified as confidential, block it, not block it, mask it or hide it from unauthorized users. First classification is done, then a policy follows up that, okay, whatever is configured as considered as confidential, this security policy on that data. So classification, that's why, is very important as well. But you have to enable all that. You have to know where is what, and what needs to be enabled when, and whatever you're enabling, is it charging? How much it is charging? Is it worth it? Now, pretty much security, for security, obviously, it is always worth it. So that's some of the things that were remaining in the SQL Server, because I had slides there. Now, if you had followed previous lab where we had deployed SQL Server and gone through many of the sections, so with those slides, these slides you can still follow when you're doing the SQL Server yourself as well. So I'll be sharing these slides. If you don't have access, then let me know. So that is one thing about SQL Server. Also, some review about the security.microsoft.com. Many of those topics are actually not there. 8500 covers those topics. Well, not many. Some of those are not there as exam objectives, but are part of security as well. Or the security exam mentions a bit less about those. So there is incident and alerts here. Obviously, that's it's gonna automatically report some incidents if something happened, and you can create some alerts as well. That hey, if somebody does that, then alert me as well. So these are just the reports, email and collaboration alerts. So you will see. But how would you go to this security area? You will have to go to Microsoft 365 Admin Center, and there are users, teams, groups, billing, but you will go down to admin centers here, and then this is the security. You have to click the security, and then this will appear. The icon for that is this white lock here. So remember the icons as well. So alerts are there. Then there's hunting, as we were talking about before as well, advanced hunting. So it just tries to check what kind of okay, so I also don't see much here, or custom detection rules for hunting. You can't access this section, sorry. Click here to retry. You can with your administrator for the role-based access permission to see that I am the role administrator here. Click here to retry now. Nope, it's not really giving me that. So this means that I need higher permissions or higher licenses to really go for advanced hunting. There is some simulation which it does anyway. So it is showing some tools here for advanced hunting, which is a collection of threat analytics, which is collection of secure score, But advanced hunting gives you some queries related stuff that you can run some queries and that simulates a outside attack into your organization. Then it tries to tell you that, hey, you have this loophole, you have this loophole, try to cover it this way, step by step. So there's that, advanced hunting related stuff. You can go through the simulate class. This is pretty much step by step, and they really give you a good job of, really do a good job of showing you how to go through all this. There's a read the walkthrough here, copy simulation script there, and the walkthrough is downloaded here. And then obviously these are some long exercises that you can go through at your free time. But once you go through it, it's really beneficial for you, for your experience. So fileless PowerShell attack with process injection and SMB recon. Seriously. SMB is server message block. Recon means reconnaissance, which means that somebody is trying to know what Microsoft files are being shared with each other. And recon means that whoever is sharing whatever files, somebody is trying to gather intelligence information, to gather information about what type of files are being shared with each other. So somebody is recognizing, doing a recon on you. Somebody is trying to gather information about your company, what files your company employees share with each other. So that's pretty long. Big document here. Actually, 18 pages, but obviously, if you have that kind of patience and passion, well, passion to learn security, then you should go through the documentation and try to read that what kind of security attacks happen and how the attacks really unfold, and then how Microsoft really repels those attacks, right? So that is their active actions and submissions. So there's an action center here as well. User doesn't have permission to view the video. Are you kidding me? Oh yeah, I think our subscription is dead. That's why I guess it's saying that. And oh yeah, see, I kept it like this on, and yesterday I was seeing that Microsoft charged me $106. So $106 were charged because I kept the subscriptions alive here. Today I will just disable those subscriptions, and so Microsoft should stop. This is the payment method here, and MasterCard is active here, and from there it charged me. Yesterday I was thinking, oh my God, seriously, but obviously it's good. So I'm just gonna delete that. So next month it will not charge me, but hopefully it lets me delete that right now. And maybe you can also, those who had the subscriptions enabled, you can also go to Microsoft 365 Admin Center and bills and payments, or I'll keep that page separate. All we need to do is just click that and delete. So I hope I remember that. So I'll keep this page here and right click and make another duplicate page to go somewhere else. So later I can delete those subscriptions. That is very important. Sometimes I forget and I keep getting bills for years, like $1 charged every month or $2 charged every month, and I'm like, oh man, which one was that? And then I had to actually change my credit. So okay, but anyway, so there's the purpose of Action Center and submissions is that you have some kind of that has that you suspect is coming has you suspect that this file the vulnerability or this file has some malware attached to it, and you can submit that sample file there, and Microsoft
Security Center will just check that and go through their security tools and tell you that, oh yes, so we find this type of malware there, and you should be changing passwords for all the users, and you should be doing this, that. So, but you can submit a suspicious file, uh, and then Microsoft will give you the report and give you suggestions that what you should do immediately to remediate uh, that threat. Okay, then there is threat intelligence, and then there is threat analytics as well, which has already analyzed that there are many threats or campaigns going on to attack, and zero active. So all the known threats against your environment, zero of them are active. If there is any active, it actually blocks or repels or fights against that. And then if one active, then there's also one comes here, which means that it was averted, the threat was averted, or the active, if somebody did attack, Microsoft tells you here, and then it repels that attack. Right now, it says that there was no attack on your subscription. And so that's threat analytics, but you have to visit your company's threat analytics every day. Then secure score, obviously, as we talked about before as well, it gives you recommendations and it gives you score against that. You have to implement those recommendations. So suppose it says that multi-factor authentication should be enabled, require multi-factor authentication for administrative tools. So I did that, I think 1 year ago for all the administrator accounts in my company. So, but it shows that it's there. It shows that you need to do that for these administrator accounts, and manage in Microsoft Azure, and protects against what? Password cracking, account breach, elevation of privilege, right? And implementation, then it tells you step by step. So that's the beauty of these alerts. It gives you next steps, but you will only get that if you have Active Directory Premium 2 subscription. Only then it gives you advanced knowledge and how to remediate whatever threats you have. So that's a pretty cool thing. Ensure all users can complete multi-factor authentication. So implementation of that. So it gives you step by step of that too. But again, you have to have premium to subscription of Active Directory. Then it gives you that kind of details. Right? And so it gives you step by step for pretty much everything. And that's a huge amount of recommendations. And we don't even have any data. When you have data, then even more recommendations are there. So you have to you have to identify according to your company's requirements and compliance policies. Sometimes your company's compliance policy are in conflict with what is recommended here. Suppose, again, I'm giving this example. It says that block USB access to your connectivity to so somebody connects USB to your employee's laptop, it should work or not. So maybe the company says, yes, it should work, but Microsoft recommends no, block it. So if your company says that, you then have to follow your company. Although you can convince the higher management that we should block it. Right? But obviously the company is paying you salary. Microsoft is not paying salary. You have to still convince your high management. Right? But you have to go through all this. You have to understand that there are all the details and knowledge about that in the links they provide, and then they provide you the steps to remediate that as well. So pretty cool way to secure your environment. Learning Hub accomplish security operation tasks with confidence and learn how to maximize protection across domains with curated collections of articles, videos, blogs, and interactive guides. So this is all learning. If you are a really security enthusiast, then obviously securing email and collaboration, then you have to go through handling ransomware and SharePoint Online. Oh, seriously. Back simulation training. Vendor I just found this as because I was supposed to be creating a report on ransomware handling in Microsoft 365. So I was looking for that documentation myself. So that's a good thing. I found it here. Although there were other documents as well, but this would be very important because ransomware attacks are happening in Canadian companies a lot. Ransomware are pervasive and ongoing threat. Um, Global threat defense deployment. Yep. Anything ransomware, the growing threat of ransomware, human operated ransomware. Oh, that's all right, ransomware. Rapidly protect against ransomware and extortion. So ransomware, you already know maybe that hackers simply encrypt your data and then they ask for money to decrypt your data. They even encrypt your backup. So first they gain access to your environment and slowly first they attack your backups and then they encrypt that, then they encrypt the whole data as well. And then you have no access to your critical data. You end up paying them to get the decryption key. And in few cases they don't they send the wrong decryption key and then your data is lost forever. You kind of have to start from the beginning, which is so bad. Okay, so Learning Hub is there, and you can do your own learning as well for ongoing security threats and how to remediate them. Files, we already talked about that, and yeah, you can just check many of the new services trial versions. Partner catalog, technology partners, so you can connect to many other companies that can uh, so these are the security software companies that are connected with Microsoft. Well, this is not security software. This is just incident response. But obviously, in if incident happens, so how do you respond to that? So these are all the partners. You can just simply get paid services from them as well. Net security, DNS security, Aruba, Vectra, Blue, etc. Yeah. So identity security and then cross-platform security. Suppose you have AWS and Azure, then which companies actually can give you very good security as well. This cloud applications, then there's security for that too. It goes on and on. Threat vulnerability and management. So which companies handle that? And secure service edge, Zscaler internet access, additional integrations. So all security partners of Microsoft are mentioned here. When you're looking for one, this is and professional services also. Whatever services you have, then how to manage them. Assets just gives you that. Suppose there were lots of cell phones and devices connected, so it is supposed to give you a report for that. We don't have any enlisted cell phones and devices, so we don't see any report. Otherwise, automatically it shows that. Then in email and collaboration, it gives you a review quarantine messages. So decide whether you want to release them to one or more of the intended recipients or unblock entities which have been blocked for sending too many messages marked as spam bulk. So any of your users who have been misusing, abusing your environment and sending a lot of spam, maybe the users don't even know and their email was sending spam. You still have to block the user and investigate and remediate the thing that's happening or what was causing that. Uh, what was causing the spam to be going from affected email mailbox. So, and then if any message was quarantined, so you want to release that or not, it's up to you, but it's here in email and collaboration. Change message trace. So then it opens Exchange server, and then you can trace the message uh, where a certain message came from. So that's Exchange message trace. I click that, then it opens just the Exchange server here. Right? Policies and rules, threat policies, alert policies, manage advanced alerts, activity. If you go to threat policies, so there's templated policies. So there's a set of templates that you can follow. Configuration analyzer, so identifies issues in your current policy configuration to improve your security. Anti-phishing, protect users from phishing attacks and configure safety tips on suspicious messages. So uh, phishing is very common way to lure your user into clicking a link that will simply open a backdoor to your company for the hackers.
So this is the easiest way to get into a company's network by hackers. So obviously, if you go to anti-phishing policies, so there's a default anti-phish policy here, and that is showing you then edit protection settings. Suppose if I go to enable spoof intelligence recommended, choose how you want to filter email from senders who are spoofing domains. So suppose their domain is actually cnn.com, but they're spoofing it, either hiding it completely or pretending to be some other domain that is doing business with your company while they belong to some other domain. So it will then try to check that connection and it will block that connection that, hey, this user is actually not coming from that domain as the user is claiming to be. So if the message is detected as spoof by spoof intelligence, the messages to the recipient's junk email folders. So if it is, it looks like it's a spoof message or somebody's pretending to be someone else, but then it will put it to junk mail and unauthenticated sender's symbol, question mark for spoof. So it just says that or show via tag. If they're saying that somebody's sending email via some domain, once there's a question mark there, then also put those emails to junk mail. So that's just a sample of policies here. So threat policies we were talking about. Then there's anti-spam policies, and you can go for anti-spam policy. There are anti-spam inbound policies, connection filter. So whatever connection is made from other company to your company, anti-spam outbound policy, inbound policy. If you go there, so then there are a long list of stuff. Obviously, I'll be going in detail with that in our Microsoft 365 course that is starting the week Saturday after the Saturday, after the next Saturday, 29th. So, but these are all the policies, anti-spam policies you have to go through and check. So, which policy does what? That's a pretty long information. Overall, you have details of the policies for the company. So here you come to configure anti-spam or anti-phishing for your company employees. So it's a pretty important area to secure your company's mailboxes and email bound and outbound email messages, right? So that's really important. Connection filtering also. Then there are policies: IP allow list, IP block list, IPs you want to block, which to allow connect to your environment, and then anti-spam outbound policies as well. So this policy area is very, very important. Anti-malware is separate set of policies here, and what you need to enable, what you need to disable. You can go for that. And safe attachments, you want to go for uh, attachments are another way to really attack your company. An employee opens a attachment that has a malware attached to it. So how will you protect your company from that? There's so many policies here for pretty much all kinds of security scenarios. Quarantine policies, advanced delivery, email authentication settings, tenant allow block list, evaluation mode. So it says configure Microsoft Defender for Office 365 without impacting your production environment. So you can evaluate a policy setting and it will try to show you that this is how it's going to work while not changing anything in your environment, right? So this that's a lot of things that you can spend a lot of time on. You can do a lot of homework on, and then set up for company. So first you put all the policies in place and then get approval from higher management for explaining the non-technical higher management that this means this means that. It saves us from that threat. It saves us from this threat. And then comes protection for cloud apps, cloud discovery. So whatever apps you deploy in the cloud, it just tries to check that traffic from high risk apps, traffic from medium risk apps, traffic from low risk apps. So whatever apps you have deployed, suppose you have deployed ServiceNow, or you have connected with ServiceNow company. ServiceNow is a big company for incident response and ticketing. IT ticketing, that is, you create a ticket for any issue. When the issue is resolved, you say that the ticket is resolved, right? So cloud discovery, and then which users are connecting to the apps, and or which apps are connecting to your environment. So what is the threat of third-party apps on your environment? So suppose you connect to some unknown company's apps, and that company may not have very good standards of security. So Microsoft Threat Intelligence will just, and Cloud Discovery will keep on checking that, hey, that app is posing high risk. Suppose the third-party app provider company has released new update, but you did not implement that update. It was released from the vendor, the third-party app, right? If you did not release that update, if you did not implement that update, so Microsoft will tell you that, hey, uh, that app has security because the vendor released that update, but you did not implement it. So it's your fault, not vendor's fault. There's that Microsoft Defender for cloud apps and advanced features. So if you start a trial for that, then it will understand risk and detect anomalous use. So whenever you are deploying a lot of apps, and that is important, you need to have some, suppose signature apps, or suppose um, SharePoint extra apps there, or Exchange server apps there. So if you're deploying any of those, so are those apps secure? Is there a threat that's coming from those third-party, non-Microsoft apps? So you want to know the threat, then you have to go for a paid subscription for that too, the start trial version for that. So that's all for the apps, and then there are overall reports here, and reports for all areas of your Microsoft 365 services, and yeah, audit and health. So these are all typical ones that you should keep an eye on and enable or check auditing reports. So if you go back here, yeah, I'll be still remembering that. This is the security area, and you have to have paid subscription for the security of this environment. So if we go further here, we need to just go through some other topics for today's last session of security course. And the week after next week, Microsoft 365 4-in-1 course starting within detail, Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, Teams Online, and then very critical Intune, which is handling your thousands of devices remotely through cloud, cell phones and tablets, and other things uh, like laptops, Mac laptops, Microsoft laptops. Okay. So there's that. We talked about. Now we need to talk about another thing that is called Azure Landing Zone, and that landing zone is, um, from the security perspective, it's pretty important. But we have to first understand what is landing zone itself, and what's well, again, what is it? Right? So I will put this here. So landing zone is an Azure landing zone is the output of a multi-subscription Azure environment that accounts for scale, security, governance, networking, and identity. Okay, I'll explain that in the diagram. An Azure landing zone enables application migration, modernization, and innovation at enterprise scale in Azure. So you're migrating from on-premises to cloud. You can, how do you safely create your environment in Azure? So that's where landing zone comes in. This approach considers all platform resources that are required to support the customer's application portfolio and doesn't differentiate between infrastructure as a service or a platform as a service.
So whatever applications you're about to move to Azure cloud, either software as a service or platform as a service or infrastructure as a service, maybe virtual machines you're moving, maybe you're moving your Exchange mailboxes. So that is all when you're moving into Azure. So what is the landing zone approach and how securely you can put all those stuff in Azure. Landing zone is an environment for hosting your workloads, pre-provisioned through code. What's the following video website? So there's a video to learn as well. It's small. It's just 2 minute video. If you're able to listen. Okay, so what it says here is that if you're migrating again, that as I was mentioning as well, if you're migrating from on-premises to cloud, then you have to make sure that you put everything in the right place and virtual networks that you create inside are good. How many virtual networks you need, how many subnets you need, what kind of policies you want to create. So there are platform versus application landing zones. So platform landing zones and application landing zones are there. Subscriptions deployed to provide centralized services, often operated by a central team or member. I want to show you from a diagram. Now, this is a very simple diagram that shows pretty much. Okay, obviously that's not a simple diagram, but the thing is that it shows the whole hierarchy of what goes there and how. Now, I will try to explain that in a very, very simple way that how to put policies, and maybe I've mentioned that before as well. In terms of security, when we're talking about that, on the top there is management group, and under that management group comes subscriptions, and under the subscriptions come under the subscriptions come resource groups, and under the resource groups come resources. So when you're creating a landing zone, so you have to check that how much, how many management groups management groups you want to create, and I'll be creating now. How many subscriptions will be coming in under what management group?
and how will it all really work? So let me create a diagram for this. Now, suppose you have, not suppose, basically we have a root management group. Management group is just grouping of all the resources, subscriptions. I have one subscription and they charge me $106, right? Under that subscription, I had resource groups created every class. I was creating a resource group, remember? For virtual machines, for virtual networks, for databases. So everything was being done inside the subscription, right? We have to be charged for something, right? For whatever we are doing. So that is done by subscriptions. And under the subscriptions, you create resource groups. Under the resource groups, you create resources like virtual machines and VMs, VNets, databases. So that's what we have been creating a lot, right? So, etc. So that is done on the resource level. What resources we can create, that is right. Now, normally we have a root management group. Under that, what you can do is, suppose you can create another management group called production, prod management group, right? So what that means is that all the business critical subscriptions will be under the production management group. Production management group, okay? And then there is UAT test management group, and then there is a dev management group. Dev is where you can do whatever you want without affecting anything. Test has to be a replica of whatever is in the production. So in production, you would have a subscription under that management group where subscription connects to a credit card, right? That subscription can have then resource groups, but those resource groups have only critical apps. Without those apps, your business will not work. Those virtual machines, so first resource groups are there, right? Suppose there's a sales department resource group with sales department related applications or virtual machines or databases. Then there is marketing department, marketing resource group, right? Uh, so this is, if any of the resources in the resource group go down, then you're in big trouble because then your business bears a lot of loss. So there are VMs here, the resource groups, and databases here in the resource groups, and apps are deployed here in the resource groups, and virtual networks are deployed in the resource group, right? And the same for marketing department as well. But if anything goes down here, in the production environment, you lose business or business incur heavy losses, right? So that would be production resource group. And then there is also sales. Obviously, when you are testing something, so test environment has to be a replica of your production environment. Because first you test here, and then exactly, suppose there are many updates in the VMs and databases. You put those updates, and then you see that, oh, nothing happened to my database. So it's okay. Now I'm going to go to the production environment where everything has to be perfect because business incur heavy losses if something happens to the production environment. Here, test environment, right? You're just testing. Same thing. So it has to be a replica of production environment. First, you test all the updates here. If there's a problem here, you don't and implement it on the production environment databases because it's replica you tested on and there was an issue. Suppose there's an issue. Here, dev environment, anything goes, right? So subscription, obviously, whenever you're using Azure, you have to have some kind of subscription attached to it so they can charge you for using their underlying hardware. So here, subscription, dev management group, sales resource groups, So here anything goes. Anything goes. Create VMs and test. Right? Create databases, test and modify, delete. Right? So you can do anything you want here for this. So that's test environment. Now, how when you create this environment, do you need to create VNets? So how many VNets you want to create here, and how many subnets inside that? You want to create one subnet for marketing, one subnet for, or maybe two, one VNet for marketing, one VNet for sales department, yet another VNet for VPN, and there's subnet for VPN. So this is VNet. So landing zone pretty much lets you um, have a full design of how your full environment of of Azure resources will be very organized way. It guides you with the best practices and what vendor recommends for you that your environment should be, how your environment should be. So that's VNet here, and those are subnets here. But you have to be then following the framework of landing zone in order to really take benefit of the security that comes with it and the policies that come with it. So suppose now this is just an environment here, but if I start showing you that in I'm going to go to okay. I'm going to go to do I have something else here as well? Yeah, there is. This is Azure. Okay, this one. So here, I'm going to go to the management. Suppose I go to the search and I type here management. So management groups. So there's a management group. It's a top level. There's a root management group always. I use management groups to group subscriptions. Click on existing group, drill in, view details and govern resources. Right click on any subscription management group, launch quick actions. So on the management group level, you can put policies, right? So management, this is the management group level, right? This is the management group level. So you can put here any kind of security policies on the management group level, and you can put those policies on the subscription level as well, and you can put policies on resource group level as well. And those policies it could be restrictive policies, it could be policy related to scalability, but there are hundreds of policies that you can put on the resource level, and obviously on the root management group, you can put policies as well. So if I go back here, this is the management groups. We didn't create any, start using management groups. So no management groups to display, right? So I'm just going to click the start using management group here, organize your subscriptions into groups, right? So now you have to have, and as I said, to create a VM, you'll say, hey, do you have a subscription? You say no, then it will ask you to create a subscription. It will connect a credit card to it, right? So uh, credit card attached to a subscription for payments. So that credit card, it's only attached with the subscriptions. Yeah. So if I go back here, so it says that you have multiple subscriptions. Then why don't you connect those subscriptions? When you create a subscription, it goes under the management group. Right?
But you can create multiple management groups. Suppose you have actually 5 or 6 subscriptions. So as I mentioned here in the diagram as well, there is subscription for production environment. There's a subscription for UAT environment. There's a subscription for dev environment. So maybe they are all connected to same credit card, or they are connected to different set of credit cards here, right? But if there are multiple subscriptions, suppose even production environment, you can have um, another maybe 3 subscriptions you can have, right? So one subscription connects. Suppose there's a subscription there for uh, sales department. There's a separate subscription. In fact, you name the subscription as sales subscription. So sales department has their own budget, right? So they will attach. Sales department will be given a credit card from the company and finance department that, hey, this is a credit card and we will track this credit card. We will track your expenses through this credit card. So when your sales resource group is created under this subscription is connected to a credit card. If there are 3 subscriptions here for the production environment only, so maybe your marketing department has its own credit card, so they say that, hey, I want to create my own subscription because my virtual machines, database, and apps charges are different from sales department VMs, database, apps charges. So give me a separate credit card for the marketing department, separate for sales department, separate for IT department. That's how also some companies, um, track uh, this. Some companies track uh, the expenses. Okay, so that's why on the management group level you work cannot be updated after creation. So management group ID, management group display name. There is that management group ID. Registered as a directory admin, but do not have the necessary permissions to access the root management. Seriously, are you kidding me? Okay, what are the necessary permissions I need? Root management group for each directory. Each directory is given important facts about the root management group. Which all the parent group's display name is tenant root group. Yeah, that's what I was expecting that this should be showing, and operates itself as a management group. The ID is the same as the directory. To change the display name, the management group can't be moved or deleted, unlike the management. All subscriptions and management groups hold up to one group management group. All Azure customers can see management group. I just want to know that, okay, this is the management group related information, which is very, very critical to read. So I put it on WhatsApp as well. But it says that I don't have the permissions, which is D and DQLS zone. So group management group, I'll just put that as a good read. Okay, so it does say applies to all resources within management group resources. This one, oh, okay. So Azure management groups support Azure role-based access control for all resources. Permissions are inherited to resources. I am the global admin, but it says that I don't have permissions seriously. Any Azure role can be assigned to a management group with which will inherit that following chart: owner, contributor, Azure role name. So it does not really tell members understand why it's custom. So management groups and resources with groups, it does not really mention. Okay, it is here the Azure AD Global Administrator needs to elevate themselves to the user access administrator role of this root group initially. After elevating access, the administrator can assign any Azure role. So yes, there's a user access administrator role that I need to be a part of. Okay, any administrator needs to be part of, right? So if I go for this, um, does it let me? You might experience some delays for a few minutes while management groups is setting up your directory. And okay, get started. Example settings.
it can let me require write permissions for creating. There you go. In settings, change default management group for new subscriptions. By default, Azure Active Directory security principals can create new management groups when this setting is turned on. Okay. The client, blah, 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 does not have authorization to perform action because or the scope is invalid. If the access was recently granted, please refresh. Oh, so I still do need access, which is user administrator, right? So this is the group settings, right? So if access was recently. So object ID does not have authorization to perform action. Okay, so let me just right click and duplicate tab and go to roles and give myself access. So I'll go to Azure Active Directory and I cleared a duplicated one. Excuse me. Roles and administrators. And then user, if I just type their user. So, well, there's that user administrator, but really, I mean, am I user administrator for the directory, administrative unit directory? Yeah. New member selected. Okay, so that's the user that needs to be added here. Sign. Excuse me. So here it says global administrator rate of this root after reading administrator can access. So user access administrator role, right? Limit themselves to user access administrator. This was user administrator, not user access administrator. So that needs to be still checked. So access administrator. Access and directory writers, privilege authenticator. So it does not show user access administrator anywhere here, which means it could be somewhere else. So I'll just quickly do a search on that too. Although there's desperate times call for desperate measures. So how to give global admin in Azure user access administrator, because sometimes the roles are defined somewhere else. Portal go directory. Yeah, that's where I was. Find your role, select the role, add assignment, limit access to manage all Azure subscriptions. In company, I didn't have to do that unless they have really created another way. How does elevated access work? This is just a simple elevated access. And yes, this is a very good diagram to show what I was showing already. Excellent diagram for that, although it was supposed to be there in excuse me. I'll be sharing that slide with you. This really shows exactly what I was showing there where I create the diagram. Excuse me. So I'll go back here and try to get that access there. I could, because I want to show you the whole landing zone, and for that I need all kinds of accesses, right? So I'll just go back here to this and elevated access for global administrator. Yeah, I have access to global administrator properties. Yes, management access. No, but yeah, so subscription, if I go to subscription level, then I can get that. Okay. All right. So if I go back here and I go to home and where's subscription? So there is subscription, Azure subscription. Subscriptions is here as well. So if I click that, subscriptions, I go to Azure subscription and then I go to IAM here, and then add role assignment, and then access. I should go for user access, administrator. There you go. Okay, so that's the user access administrator. I select that and I click next. I should have it, but Microsoft, it's a good thing that Microsoft does some double checking if global administrator account was compromised or taken over by hackers. They will have to still give and go through an extra step, give themselves access to do some management group level or landing zone level. So I got this access now, and hopefully it will let me. So I'm going to refresh that. It might not update right away, but there's a change management, default management group. There's a tenant root and select. It still says that you just need to get the proper permission for that, and then you can create a landing zone. So it will take time for it to be done. So while this is going on, let me show you some landing zone related separate. Um, there's a tools. There are components with landing zone. So if I go to one of the component that is called blueprint. So I'm just going to go for blueprint here. So there's blueprints. Blueprints gets deployed with landing zone as well. If I go to the blueprint, what is a blueprint? It is blueprints enable quick creation of governed subscriptions. So what when you deploy a subscription, when you create a new subscription, vendor says that you should put these policies on the subscription. You should configure the subscription in such a way. This is where you should configure a subscription, which is the vendor best practices. So this allows cloud architects to design environments that comply with organizational standards and best practices, enabling your app teams to get to production faster. So Blueprint compose artifacts such as templates, policies, role assignments, and resource groups based on common or organization-based patterns into reusable blueprint. So if I go back to the diagram here, when you deploy a landing zone consists of pretty much everything that is here. So landing zone consists of um, this, but there's a lot more there. So why am I talking about landing zone again? You want to migrate your services into a framework, into a vendor best practice based infrastructure in Azure. You go for Azure Landing Zone. This is part of the AZ exam objectives as well, 500 security exam objective. That what is a landing zone? So in landing zone, what it says that hey, your management groups should be properly configured. Your subscription should be properly configured. Your resource groups should be properly configured. And what I did not mention till now is blueprint should be properly configured. And what is that? I'll be showing you blueprint. The blueprint simply gives you a way to deploy subscription, resource groups, resources, VNets. So everything you can deploy with Blueprint in a very organized way, right? And then landing zone takes benefit of Blueprint, so you can deploy subscription resource group with proper policies and with proper security configurations. So why don't I use you? So landing zone tells Blueprint, okay, Blueprint, I will be using you to deploy properly subscriptions with proper security, resource group with proper security,
and all the resources. So Blueprint is part of the landing zone. Landing zone is a full organized infrastructure, proper security implementation, proper scalability implementations of the whole environment of Azure, right? So again and again, I'm just trying to connect every piece together. When I Blueprint will help you deploy this subscription resource. Excuse me. So now let me just go and check out what Blueprint separately does. So then you will have an idea about how to really connect it. So I'm going to go to Blueprint overview. It's part of the landing zone as well. And what it does, so I'll just put that as a good reading here in WhatsApp as well as in as well. What is excuse me, Blueprint, and then how does it play part in the learning zone deployment? Okay, now the frog has gone away from my throat. So I'm gonna click that here. Oh, it's back. Excuse me. So now I think I have to mute it and then I'll screen. Okay, choose a blueprint sample. So when you create a blueprint, you can start with a blank blueprint or pick one of our predefined samples to help you get started. Blank blueprint, an empty blueprint with no initial properties or artifacts. Start with blueprint, a blank blueprint, or you can go for, you can see samples. So what are samples, first of all? Oh, you want to deploy a blueprint with standards from Australian government ISM. There are some standards by every uh, standards-based agency or by governments. Deploys and configures policies mapped to specific Australian government information security manual. Azure Security Benchmark Foundation. Deploys and configures Azure Security Benchmark Foundation preview. Basic networking. You want to create a blueprint where only VNets are created, but with proper vendors subscriptions, standards, and policies that are recommended by vendors. Configures a virtual network with a subnet and an NSD. So CAF Foundation, so that is Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure Configure Foundational Best Practices. So there are many type of standards with which your subscriptions, your resource groups will be deployed, your VNets will be deployed. It will be following all the standards provided or defined by certain governments or certain standards agencies, um, and certain agent, again, UK official and UK NHS deploys and configures policies mapped to specific UK NHS controls. Okay, so just to go for something, configure foundational best practices. Okay, that is CAF Foundation or Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure. When you're adopting cloud, what is the framework or set of rules you should follow to implement the whole infrastructure of Azure? Infrastructure has what? This is the whole infrastructure: production environment, management group for test environment, management group for dev environment. So the whole infrastructure you want to deploy in a wizard-based style, then you can go for Azure Landing Zone on a big level. But Blueprint is one of the things that Azure Landing Zone also. So if I go for CAF, this Cloud Adoption Framework of Azure, configure foundational best practice. What are the best practices, foundational best practices by Azure? So if I click CAF Foundation, so it says Blueprint resource name, so company infrastructure base, this alphanumeric characters, underscores, and dashes, so no spaces. Definition location. So where do you want to deploy Blueprint? And it's Azure subscription to which my credit card is connected. and artifacts. Then it goes for what you want inside deployed. So definition location is the place in the management group hierarchy where this blueprint definition will be stored. Once definition is created, a blueprint assignment can be created or at or below this location in the management group hierarchy. Management groups are groups that can contain what? Subscriptions or other management groups. You can learn more at this blue location. Wow. Okay. Artifacts. So what are artifacts? Add artifacts to the blueprint. Add resource groups to organize where the artifacts should be deployed and assigned. So append cost center tag and its value from the resource group. So what kind of policies do you want to? Suppose we go for an easiest artifact. So suppose first of all, subscription artifacts are here. Artifacts are anything that is resource. So if I go for add artifact and policy assignment, role assignment, Azure resource management, manager template, resource group. You want to create a resource group, simple resource group, right? We've been creating that so many times. So that is called artifact. Resource group will have what? VNets, virtual machines, databases. You want to actually create a policy for resource group, for VNets, for databases. That is also called artifact. So role assignment, you want to give someone high privilege on resource groups. That is also called artifact. Your resource manager template, you want to have some kind of templates to deploy resources. So that is also called artifact. Anyway, first thing is add artifacts to the blueprint and add resource groups to organize where the artifacts should be deployed and assigned. So this is separately we could have deployed, but I'm going for, so first of all, it says that you're creating a blueprint. So why don't you tell me, do you want to put some restrictions for the resources that are being created in this blueprint? I say, yes, I want to put a restriction, and that is allowed locations. I don't want anyone to connect outside of Canada. Anyone inside Canada should be connected only to. So this policy enables you to restrict the locations your organization can specify, deploying resources used to enforce your geo compliance requirements, excludes resource groups, Microsoft, Azure, Active Directory, B2C, or business to find directories and resources that use the global region. You can choose to fill these parameters in now or when assigning the blueprint. So it just says that what policies use. So I say that, hey, whoever creates a virtual machine in the resource group that I'm about to deploy, whoever creates a database, they can only create in Canada Central, nowhere else. So I'm putting one policy while I'm drawing the whole blueprint. Blueprint is just a basic map of combination of resource groups and permissions. So I'm just saying that whatever you do it in Canada Central. That's where our company is. So I'm just gonna click save here. So when it says here allowed location policy assignment, 1 out of 1 parameters populated. You can see enable monitoring in Azure Security Center, and you can see 1 of 5 policies. So these are all the policies that you can deploy when you're deploying a blueprint. Okay. So no exists. So the Azure Security Benchmark Initiative represents the policies and controls implementing security recommendations defined in Azure Security Benchmark V3. See this, so there's a benchmark of security where they say that, hey, an ideal security configuration would be like this or like that. So if I go for the benchmark, it goes overview Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark. So it says that how your Azure cloud security should be. Then there is CIS controls there, and then CIS controls show the comprehensive multi-cloud security framework. So how your cloud should be secured. This is the whole framework for that. I mean, this is pretty
resource here. And you should be going through, if you talk about security, uh, must read. I'm putting it in WhatsApp, must read. And this is the cloud security benchmark. So basic benchmark or rules of what kind of security should be implemented. So I'll just put that here. Must read security Azure cloud security benchmark. Right? Okay. So I'm just gonna go back to this, create a blueprint. So it shows from that benchmark, what do you want to enable? What do you want to disable? Do you want to audit certain things? Suppose audit unrestricted network access to storage accounts. Do you want to audit or deny access of network access to storage accounts? So there's audit, deny, disable. So these are very strict policies and they will implement right away. So you have to check what are your resource logs in logic apps, required retention in days of logs and keywords, source logs and keywords. So it goes on and on. You have to go through the 105 policies and check that what you want to implement. Do you want to just get report or you want to disable that? There's a lot of stuff here that you can control right away, right? So I'm canceling that, but I only labeled location policy. And there's deploy network watcher when virtual networks are created. These are all the policies that the blueprint lets you implement. Microsoft says, hey, this is my recommendation of implementing resources in Azure. If you go through the blueprint, Microsoft recommendations will be shown to you that, hey, if you really want to secure your VNets and your VMs and your resource groups, then these are some of the recommended policies by Microsoft. At least you should have these policies implemented when you're creating your resources. So this is the best thing to go through to understand that, oh, my Azure configurations are all according to vendor best practices or not. So I implemented one policy from this area. Then I go for artifact and resource group for shared services, deploy keyword, deploy log analytics, artifact. It keeps on saying that you want to deploy artifact from security center. You want to deploy artifact from networks. You want to deploy something. How many VNets you want to deploy? Do you want to deploy artifacts or something from identity services? How many users you want to deploy? What users will have what kind of permissions? And first application, you want to deploy an application as well. So there's an artifact for that too. If I go one by one here, so security center template, add artifact, and it says that, oh, what do you want to go for? I say that, okay, I'm on a create a resource group here. Okay, what will be the name of the resource group? So I say RG-15 April 2023 and resource group name set. You can choose to fill these parameters in now or okay, artifact display name. I'll just put it here as well. And location is obviously Canada Central. Tag name if you want to put a tag. So I say, hey, Blueprint, implement this policy of allowed locations only in Canada Central. I can create virtual machines and databases. Then I say that, hey, create a resource group for me as well by the name of this RG15 something, right? And then I go for add artifact. Again, this is also actually going to show whatever I did not implement till now. Suppose I go for policy assignment, although I put a policy here already, allowed location, but if I go policy assignment, then it shows you 1,832 policies. pretty much about anything inside Azure. Do you want to implement some restriction, some auditing? You want to deploy something, deploy configure log analytics extension to be enabled on virtual machine. So pretty much anything and everything you do in Azure, you can implement a policy from that for that. So it becomes a pretty big, decision. It's time consuming to really go through everything. But once you go through it all, whatever you need, you select that, then obviously you're deploying infrastructure in a very organized way. Right? So policies and assignment is pretty huge. I don't know what to select here. Are virtual machines without disaster recovery configured? Okay, restrict location of information processing, storage, and services. Uh, okay, I'll go for audit virtual machines without disaster. I'll just add something from here. Virtual machines without disaster recovery. But there are 1,832 such policies. So you have pretty much huge, big control over that. You can see the icon here, this one. Now, this icon was here as well, right? So this means it's pretty much all these policies were there as well, which I just opened now. These are Microsoft recommended right away. Microsoft says, hey, you're deploying resource groups. Why don't you go through my most recommended policies? That's why they assign at Microsoft says at least this much. This policy you must consider, right? And then extra policy is 1,832. From there, you can deploy anything else as well. So if I click add artifact here, it's pretty much the same thing here. Now role assignment, if I go there, so there is role, and suppose it's a contributor role to someone I want to give. Suppose it's honor. There we go. So when you're deploying a resource group, you can give. It didn't detect that, or what? Yeah, now it detected that. Add. So it's showing that this guy will be having access to this resource group with this policy and this policy, right? So if I keep going ahead with this, so I can just collapse that as well, just to show you the overall how does that look like. Resource group for shared services, resource group for networks, resource group for identity services, resource group for first application. So it just shows you in a categorized way what you can do and what should be implemented in a wizard. So Azure Resource Management template, and there you can run some code, and it will run for you whatever you want. Right? So that we don't have a code for that, but overall policies, users, and resource groups are created. So this is a resource group that's created. I go inside the resource group here, then there's a artifact as well. Maybe that is still just, oh, you want to create a policy on the resource group level, you want to assign someone else the resource group, you want to create any other resource with the code you have, you can do it from here. Okay. So some of the things are pretty clear on this, that what are artifacts. These are just resources or policies and resources that you want to implement. And if I go ahead, so yeah, next artifacts, that's it. So then save draft. Yeah, saving blueprint definition, saving blueprint definition. Okay, so this is apply to a scope. So apply a blueprint to one or more subscriptions. Now you've created a resource group. You have created you have given a user access to the resource group. You have configured two policies there, right? Then it says, okay, you have a framework here. You have some kind of configurations there. You want to attach it to a subscription. So if I click apply, so it says that you have just one subscription here. Do you want to apply this blueprint to this subscription?
So that is so publish blueprint, edit blueprint. So the thing is that publish changes. So I'm going to publish these changes. So this means that they should be implemented then. So publish blueprint and provide a version for this. So it's version. Suppose I make changes in the future, so it will be 1.1, then 1.2, then 1.3, right? So publish. So blueprint is published. Company was successful, and this blueprint with two policies and one resource group is attached to this subscription. So what blueprint does is, and then track assignments, track where blueprints have been applied and share them across your organization. So you create a blueprint to to collect your favorite policies and give it to a resource group, attach a resource group, also attach some users to it. Things that you can do with the blueprint and then attach it to the subscriptions. Once it is attached to the subscription, so if I go now the resource groups, so it hasn't shown that yet. So I'm going to go to the subscription. It's attached there to the subscription, right? So this is the subscription, and it hasn't really appeared here yet. When it will appear there with the subscription, then it should. Oh, there is billing resources. It hasn't showed there yet. Let's see if I go up there are policies here that are attached to subscription. So it will show after some time. Dependent containers for Kubernetes. It hasn't shown now. No. Okay, so one thing is I'm going to go to the management group again, and I'll try to check if the security configuration has been given and implemented. Or seriously, it hasn't been implemented yet. So what I wanted to really show was that in the management group, you can organize all the resources under management group, right? For some reason, it's not giving me access there. So you create a root management group is always there by default. You create your own management groups, name them production, UAT test, or dev. Then suppose you have multiple subscriptions, so you can move subscriptions that have critical infrastructure to production management group, and then the test infrastructure. These are just the test machine databases. You move it to test management group. And then there is dev management group. So here anything goes. You want to create something, but you can move whatever subscription you create, you move to the proper management group there. And then you start creating resources. Obviously, you have to create policies, and now we know there are 1832 policies here. So 1832, 1832 policies. So from any of those policies, you can implement those policies on any level here. Right? So any of the policies here. Suppose policies from 1832 related to VMs only, you implement, or databases only, you implement, or apps or VNets you implement. So, but there are those, that policy tab is available on management group level, subscription level, and resource group level as well. So you can put policies. If you put policies on the management group level, it will inherit to all the others as well. You don't have to then put policies here at subscription level. Put it on management group level, it just inherits on path, unless you have some conflicting policy on this level. So this is it didn't give me the access to the management group. Otherwise, I was supposed to show you. I wanted to show you that how we can add, remove. It's just click, click, click. Once management group access you have, then
simply you get to go to the wizard and create a management group. In my production environment, in my company, obviously I am able to create a management group there, but I have all the policies here. Somehow I have given myself the permission, but it still is not ready to let me work on it. If I go for landing zone, so it's just a framework basically and not an actual service, but it says what is an Azure landing zone, and it's a cloud adoption framework. The landing zone, what you exactly have is what we have configured. So we just go through that architecture of landing zone. When you are creating landing zone, you need to have blueprint deployed there as well. And there are design guides here, design patterns here, and how do you really deploy is you just follow the framework to deploy anything. The platform owners such as the built-in owner, network management, security operations, SecOps, subscription owner, application owner. So when you're deploying applications, when you're deploying networks, so you have to go through all these, uh, models and responsibilities. Like Azure Landing Zone, Portal Accelerator, Azure Landing Zone, Terraform Accelerator. So there is a Terraform script as well. Terraform is a third party, you know, uh, that gives you automation with scripts. You want to create a landing zone, there's a Terraform script as well, and Azure Landing Zone Portal Accelerator is there as well. An Azure portal-based deployment that provides a full implementation of the conceptual architecture, along with opinionated configurations for key components such as management groups and policies. So, um, yeah, this is so yeah, that's where we were before, and the portal accelerator it just says deploy to Azure and deployments with ARM templates required access. So this is portal accelerator. It says for organizations where this conceptual architecture fits with the operating model resource structure they plan to use, there's a ready-made deployment experience called the Azure Landing Zone Portal Accelerator. Accelerators are infrastructure as code implementation. So they have given you a full code implementation that deploy both platform and application landing zones. This accelerator is an Azure portal-based deployment for those who plan to manage their environment with Azure portal. So let me check that because I did search and it did not really put. Is that something we can go from search and check? Mm, it could be different name, but it actually does not have that. So if I go for deploy to Azure, because it's a code, right? So it will give you a big list of code that you have to. Oh, there you go. Azure Landing Zone Accelerator. Seriously? So from search, I could not find it. That's ridiculous. My custom template. Okay, I go there. Yeah, it doesn't come in the search when I go Azure Landing Zone Accelerator. Oh, nothing. Wow. So it's only from this link, which I clicked. That it. So if I click back, landing zone accelerator, deploy custom template. It comes in custom template. Okay, you can see this is huge. So first thing is um, deployment settings, Azure core setup, platform management, security and governance. You have to configure all that. Platform DevOps and automation. You have to configure all that. Network topology and connectivity. You have to tell how many VNets and subnets you want. Who do you identity? Who do you want to give access to this whole set of VNets? And then landing zone configuration. You want to deploy application based or platform based. Then decommissioned sandbox. If you want any sandbox to be decommissioned as well. So this whole wizard is, we can say, one portal based, wizard based creation of a landing zone.
Here, once you have created all that, then you can add your applications, then you can add your um, VNets and subnets further. But it gives you a basic, full framework of how to create a Azure infrastructure, how to create an Azure environment with the Azure Landing Zone Accelerator. So this is the most important thing. And where's that link that I clicked? I just need to give it to you as well. I think it just simply, the link was supposed to be here. Okay. You can always check that with you can just search with this, right? Azure Learning Zone Accelerator, and it will give you that. So it actually is supposed to be code based. Vector, accelerator. Wow, all the learning zone related stuff is there. But I wanted to show you or give you that there is AKS accelerator. VM solution landing zone accelerator. So Azure desktop landing. So for all types of services, so for just the virtual machines, the best practices for AKS, which is Kubernetes or containerization, what are the best practices? All that is showing there, right? Anyway, it just says that this is the way to, you have to have permission here. You can only uh, get this landing zone to work. So I will then put a screenshots on WhatsApp and will show you once I go through the whole app. I'll just try to create a video for that. You can simply implement that step by step. Right now, yeah, it's gonna go for some permissions, and I need to work on the permissions. So when this lab is ready, obviously, I will let you know as well. This is the main thing that you would need to go through to understand learning zone. Okay, guys. Other than that, I will go through one more thing. That is, excuse me, not stuck. So Azure Web Application, I'll go for Web Application well. And in Web Application, uh, we have a Web Application Firewall or WAF provides centralized protection for your web applications from common exploits and vulnerabilities. You can deploy WAF on Azure Application Gateway or WAF on Azure Front Door Service. So we need to know about front door service as well. Web application firewall on front door, web application firewall on application gateway. So we did talk about firewall. We went through in details for firewall before, but that firewall was to protect infrastructure resources. Now it is, the web application firewall is for obviously if you have a web application. So now, Web Application Firewall provides centralized protection for your web applications from common exploits and vulnerabilities, and web applications are increasingly targeted by malicious attacks. So it gives you a detail of this type of firewall, and if we go further here, so if I go back to in fact the environment here, and we talk about web application firewall policy. So there you go. Here it shows web application firewall policies here. If you have obviously a web application, then you can only create that. If I click the create, so it says create a web application firewall policy to protect your web applications from exploits and vulnerabilities. So if you have web applications, then you obviously will create this firewall. Now it says create front door WAF policy. So in order to know that, you have to click front door, right?
you have to know front door as well. So let me just put a duplicate tab. Then we're going to go back to web application front door. What is front door? Front door CDN profiles. So this is content delivery network. Front door basically is uh, Azure Front Door and CDN provides a security-led modern and cloud CDN that provides static and dynamic content acceleration, global and load balancing, and enhanced security for your apps, APIs, and websites with intelligence. So, first of all, we can just know what is front door, then we can go for the web app firewall for front door. So, Azure front door. So, basically, front door just delivers um, content, website content across the globe, right? So, if I go to frequently asked questions for front door, so what is Azure Front Door is an application delivery network, ADN, as a service, offering what? Various layer 7 load balancing capabilities for your application. So if you have an application across the globe that thousands of users are connecting to, so they will first hit the front door application, this service, they can connect your applications from all parts of the globe. So it provides dynamic site acceleration along with global load balancing with near real-time failover. It's a highly available and scalable service which is completed managed by Azure. Completely managed by. It's completed managed by. Wow, spell mistake. What features does Front Door? So Azure Front Door supports dynamic site acceleration, TLS SSL offloading, and end-to-end TLS web application firewall, cookie-based session affinity. Basically, um, it just lets you connect to your applications by offering a firewall. Now, by offering a load balancer. So, suppose we talk about this. While both front door and application gateway are layer 7, load balancer. So, front door is a load balancer, first of all. And the primary difference is that front door is non-regional service, whereas application gateway is regional service. So, application gateway and front door both are load balancers. They balance the load, but front door goes global. Front door is offering that service globally, while application gateway is regional service. So suppose Canada Central region is an application and thousands of users are connecting to that. Application gateway will be a load balancer on that region, one region or second region or third region. Front door goes global. You have applications in Canada Central, you have applications in West Europe, East Asia. So through the front door, users can be connected to their nearest region through the front door, right? The front door can load balance between your different scale units, clusters, stamp units across regions. Application gateway allows you to load balance between your VMs containers. So it's on the regional level, application gateway, and between two VMs, between some containers, you want to do load balancing, you go for load application gateway. The front door goes on the global scale, right? So, and it says that, so if there's a diagram, otherwise, let me just create a diagram quickly. So you have here, you know, Azure, Canada Central region, Canada Central region. And then you have here East Europe, EU, right? And then you have here West Asia, suppose. So now application gateway will be deployed on
regional level, application gateway on regional level, right? While front door would be deployed on global level, so Azure front door, and so all the traffic which wants to connect uh, to suppose you have deployed your apps in all these regions because you have a lot of customers here. So Azure front door with that, you can do that on global scale. So all end users are connecting, and they get connected to suppose users coming from Europe. They have Azure front door link. So they will first connect to Azure front door. Through that, it will detect that, oh, users are coming from Europe. So it will connect them to East Europe application. Or suppose you have here multiple applications deployed in multiple data centers. Suppose so it will connect Azure front door will connect to application gateway, and from there, application gateway will further load balance uh, between that, between different applications in different data centers in that region. So either this can be done or front door can directly connect you to the application in that region and application in that region. Suppose the application gateway was not deployed, so directly to the application as well. So that's what front door really does. And when we talk about WAF or web application firewall, so web application firewall will be then deployed in front of the front door. So then the user's connection will have to go through WAF, which is so it will be connected through WAF. So it will be web application firewall. For front door, there's a separate one. For application gateway, there's a separate one. Suppose you deploy application gateway firewall only that is just on the regional level. You can create a WAF, a web application firewall for just application gateway. Suppose all these are behind Azure front door. So you can just deploy a web application firewall for front door specifically. Now, once you put that firewall, so all the users need to then connect to the firewall, go to the firewall policies, and then connect to the front door, and then connect to whichever region they were connecting from. So that's how it would go ahead with the front door, right? But that's through web application firewall indeed that you would connect. And then once we understand this, then it should be a bit more clear that, okay, so that's what front door really looks like. And when we go to the Azure portal, front door and CDN profiles, CDN is content delivery network profiles. So if I click the create front doors, obviously you must have an application for which you're deploying front door. Did you deploy some application in Canada Central region or EU West or Asia East, suppose? Azure Front Door is a secure cloud CDN, so content delivery network. Do you have a content to deliver, which provides static and dynamic content acceleration, global load balancing, and protection of your apps? That's front door. You need to create a front door. Suppose we go for that, so then it will ask that, hey, where's your application, right? And then endpoint name, endpoint host name, origin host name. So, and WAF policies. Did you create a firewall, web application firewall or not? So you define where is your application in via endpoint, what is the host name, which virtual machine has your application, and is that virtual machine a origin of that data access? or the VNet has the data access, and then a web application policy. So that's where the firewall comes. Right? So if I just close that and go back to web application firewall, now we understand that through this diagram, that where does web application firewall stand here. So this web application firewall obviously can be in front of this application. So WAF can be deployed here as well in front of the application gateway, which is regional, or in front of front door, which is global. So that is also needed to be mentioned here. Global service, and this is regional service. Application gateway is regional service, and it is for okay. So I'll just then add that diagram there instead of this. Okay, so no web application firewall. Now this is create front door WAF policy. So if suppose you have created a front door already, which is a global load balancing service, then the policy, web application firewall policy for that, that you global WAF, front door, or regional WAF application gateway. Now we know that how it works with the diagram. From the with the help of a diagram, front door tier, premium tier, classic tier, standard tier, you want which subscription, because they will obviously charge you for that. So which subscription you want, and then new resource group that you want to create. Suppose we go for create new, and RG something today, so 15 April 23, and then press OK. And then there is, do you want detection only or you want prevention? Because it's a firewall you're deploying in front of the front door service, right? So you want to prevent, suppose you want to prevent, so you can select that, or detect that. Manage rules. So now then there are rules here that it's a firewall, right? So what kind of rules you want to implement here? And that's just a few 100,000 rules, not 100,000, but so illegal content type header block on anomaly. So you have some kind of suspicion that there is some kind of traffic that is going to harm your website, or any kind of content you're sharing. Node.js injection attack, bug on anomaly. So you can see that there are so many types of attacks. Attacks, basic SQL authentication, bypass attempts. So these are all the types of attacks on different whatever you're sharing. So this is the content that you can share. Unix shellcode, so PHP. Normally it's website related, website application and language related. A web shell upload attempt. So all these attacks. So what kind of attacks you want to be safeguarded from? Right? So you want to be safeguarded from all types of attacks. Then it will implement all types of protection. Protection from all types of attacks. So you can see XSS, PHP. So what are the areas? What kind of data you have really you're saving. So RC data PHP is used in websites a lot. XSS is used in websites a lot. SQL Server, the database is behind the websites. Java, use it as well. And then some protocol enforcement, the connectivity they're connecting, is it harmful way that they're connecting, and then some general attacks as well. So these are the types of attacks from which your application will be protected. You want to choose which type of attack you want to be protected, or you can choose all. Then if you go to policy settings, then a web application firewall policy allows you to control access to your web applications by
set of custom and managed rules. There are multiple settings that apply to all rules within the policy. Anyway, enable request body inspection. So it's just saying that what kind of policies you want to implement, but you have to give a URL for that policy. And then it will implement that block response body, block response status 403. You can give that URL that, hey, this site is blocked because of this reason. So web developers would be very happy to see this when they are sharing their data across the globe. Custom configure a policy with custom authored rules. So if I go for add custom rule and custom rule policy, so match type, status, priority, then there is geolocation. So do you want to block or allow according to countries? Want to block or allow traffic according to IP addresses, size or string? So geolocation is there, and then there is socket address or remote address. Then which countries from which traffic you want to allow or block. So then you can put some policy. There's that deny traffic showing here, right? So if I choose some country and then there is deny traffic or allow traffic, block traffic, just block, don't do anything, and or redirect traffic. So from a specific country, a traffic is coming, just redirect somewhere else. So pretty cool features here for custom rules and association, then front door profile. So if you have created a front door profile where I was showing you before that how to create a front door profile, that or where to create a front door profile. So if you've done that, then you can mention, okay, that's the front door. Front door is just connecting you to the actual website in a virtual machine. So you have to connect to that front door, which at the back of this is the virtual machine or the content, wherever the web content is stored right now. And then tags and review plus create, right? So definitely this is web application firewall. What you need to know from here is managed rules offers lots and lots and lots of attack related information, that what attacks you want to be protected from. Policy, then that you can put a policy URL there that, hey, you cannot connect because there is some web application firewall rule that is implemented right now. And then custom rule that protects you. So web application firewall protects you from geolocation based. How you can allow or block geolocation, which country users can connect and cannot. From these IP addresses, users can connect or cannot. If the size of the user's data is this much, allow or deny, or some other string that you want to put here, header name or contains this information, then block or allow. That's pretty extensive controls that can associate to a front door, right? Or an application gateway profile. But we were talking about WAF, right? So WAF is pretty powerful and it shows all the rule sets there. The web application firewall on front door. It gives you pretty much all the protection. So we needed to know what kind of protection. So that is the type of protection that it gives. Okay, so that is, front door we needed to discuss, SQL, landing zone, blueprints. Then there is one more thing actually left, and that is Sentinel, Azure Sentinel. So for that, Sentinel, so Microsoft Sentinel, what is this? How it works? So is a scalable cloud native solution that provides what? Security information and event management, security orchestration, automation, and response as well. SOAR. So Sentinel provides two things: SIEM and SOAR. SIEM, security information and event management, security orchestration, automation, and response. SOAR. Microsoft Sentinel delivers intelligent service analytics and threat intelligence across the enterprise, right? So if I just quickly do that, in another slide to give you. Not only that it detects, but it also tries to protect. So if we go for so there is Azure Sentinel, and it provides not only detection but also prevention. So that's a bit more, direct services for security. So security information and event management, as well as source security orchestration, automation, response. So the response thing here is really cool. That it does that as well. Not only just information, but it responds to attacks as well. Uh, and if we go ahead, Microsoft Sentinel inherits the Azure Monitor tamper proofing and immutability practices. So it says here Microsoft Sentinel inherits the Azure Monitors. Azure Monitor is another service, right? Tamper proofing, somebody change your data. So it's just going for, it's going to use the Azure Monitor service. Sentinel will use Azure Monitor service. While Azure Monitor is an append-only data platform, it includes provisions to delete data for compliance purposes. So it can append or change data, but it can also, in important cases where the data is sure to be, harmful data, it can delete the data as well. So this is then a pretty cool service. There is collect data at cloud scale, detect previously undetected threats, investigate threats with artificial intelligence, respond to incidents rapidly. So pretty much a security guard here that is really showing a lot of protection related information. Microsoft, it is other than Microsoft Defender. Microsoft Defender itself is covering a lot already. But Sentinel, you want to deploy, obviously you will have to pay for that. Then you can really collect data by using data connectors, as we talked about that before. Create interactive reports by using workbooks. So it's going to give you reports. Microsoft Defender does that too. Sentinel does it on a next level and gives you even more in depth than Microsoft Defender. But Defender is good enough as well. Correlates alerts into incidents by using analytics rules. So it's intelligent as well, that it's going to, whatever alerts were created, will attach to whatever incidents that happen. It's pretty cool. Automate and orchestrate common tasks by using playbooks. So you can create automated tasks. First go to Sentinel, then create a record, then post a message, and send that approval message to someone. So it creates actually playbooks, which are automated. It uses different applications to do certain tasks automatically. Right? So it has a lot of AI working inside. Investigate the scope and root cause of security threats. So it's going to give you then the root cause of where the attack emanated, and what are the IP addresses and what sources of your company are affected by that. This is also pretty cool. That investigate the scope and root cause of threats. Hunt for security threats by using built-in queries. So it has its own built-in hunter as well. Um, Although Microsoft Defender also has the hunting capability here, but hunt for security, it's going to do that too. So that is also very important for you to at least have a look at it in when you're revising. So other than that, enhance your threat hunting with notebooks and threat hunting and download security content from the community. So it supports community as well, right? That's a lot of services that it offers, and it does automate the task as well with some common services like ServiceNow, Jira, Zendesk, Slack, Azure Active Directory, Defender. Also, it communicates with Defender as well. So that's good. That two very powerful security tools can uh, work together as well. So where is Azure Sentinel? Um, Microsoft Sentinel, that is, and it says Microsoft Sentinel to display, see, and stop threats before they cause harm. It would seem reinvented for a modern world. Microsoft Sentinel is your bird's eye view across the enterprise. So that's what it is. It's a bird's eye view of what's going on in the enterprise and where are the security threats. So when you go for create Sentinel, so it just says give me a name. Oh, then it creates a workspace. Ouch. And there are pricing there as well. And it's a 31-day trial version. So it's going to create a workspace, and then if we had data, obviously it would have shown us. It's going to create workspace, which means it's going to create a storage account, and then it will save all the log files there, and it will show you in a fancy way where are the threats. The tools are automated. You have to enable disable them, and then it's going to show you how it really can perform. So obviously the dashboard shows everything as well, the screenshots. So this is the Sentinel. I'm trying to avoid that, creating that because I don't have data that it's going to collect and then show. Obviously, it will not show, even if we create, it's not going to show this because we don't have any data. And it takes some time for it to gather up some reports, right? So threat intelligence, entity behavior, notebooks, hunting, workbooks, it's much more advanced than Microsoft Defender. Obviously, you have to pay for it, and it gives you Microsoft says, it's your bird's eye view of your whole environment where the threats are, right? So that would give you a better overview of what are the threats there. So, well, that's what Azure Sentinel is, a bird's eye view of security for your organization, right? Guys, that is overall that are the overall topics that we needed to discuss. Today was the last session of this course. I'm gonna share all these slides here, and in future I'll be conducting some more security related configurations or labs. So I'll be sharing on a central YouTube. You can just always connect to the YouTube channel to see some of the newer labs of AZ 500 course as well. If you want to go for the exam, yes, it's examtopics.com is the website for that, where all the questions. I don't know why it's still free, but they have gone commercial. Very soon they will be removing those free questions as well. So my suggestion is to go to examtopics.com, AZ500 or AZ104, and grab those questions while you still can, and go through the discussions as well and try to check it out what's going on. So these are some of the topics. I'll be sharing those slides in LMS, and you can go through that. The new course starting is the week after next week. That is Microsoft 365, Exchange, Azure Active Directory, SharePoint, Teams, and Intune. The 5 things are there, although I call it 4 in 1. So that's going to be in depth with Exchange, all settings, which is very critical for any organization. And they always ask this in the interviews as well. Okay, so yeah, that's it, guys. If there are any questions, let me know. And otherwise, hopefully, see you in some other course. So, bye from my side now. Any questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a nice weekend with a nice weather.